The unexpected encounter. The battlefield burned with smoke and fire. Explosions shook the ground, and broken metal rained from the sky. Soldiers shouted orders, weapons clashed, and the air was thick with fear. Among the chaos, one human soldier moved with sharp focus. His name was Captain Darius, a man known for courage but also for silence. He did not waste words, only actions. And in this moment, action was all that mattered. The enemy came fast, alien warriors with glowing armor and strange curved blades. They were taller than humans, with bright eyes that cut through the smoke. Darius swung his sword again and again, pushing forward with his squad. Each step was heavy, but he refused to stop. For him, retreat was not an option. Then, in the middle of the storm, he saw her, an alien warrior unlike the rest. Her movements were sharp, graceful, almost like a dance. She fought with a double-edged spear, each strike strong and fast. Her black hair flowed behind her helmet, catching the sparks of firelight. And for a moment, she seemed untouchable, almost like a shadow moving through flame. Darius charged at her, their blades meeting with a violent sound. Metal against metal, strength against strength. Neither gave way. For long seconds, they fought, each testing the other. He blocked her spear. She dodged his sword. She kicked him back. He struck again. The fight was brutal, but there was something strange in her eyes. Not just hatred, but curiosity, like she was studying him while they fought. The clash grew faster, more desperate, until his sword swung wide, aiming for her chest. But instead of ending her life, the blade sliced across her hair. A long lock fell into the dirt. The sound of the battlefield seemed to fade. The alien woman froze, her weapon hanging loosely at her side. Darius raised his guard again, ready to strike. But she did not attack. She dropped her spear and sank to her knees in front of him. Her hand touched the ground, her head bowed. It was a gesture so unexpected that Darius hesitated. Why would an enemy kneel before him? The soldiers around them shouted in shock. "Finish her," one cried. "She's tricking you," another yelled. But Darius could not move. There was something powerful in her silence, something heavy in the air. The alien woman lifted her head slowly. Her eyes locked on his, burning with strange fire. When she spoke, her voice was soft but strong. "I swear eternal loyalty," she said. Her words carried through the noise, clear and sharp. Even the explosions seemed to pause for that moment. Darius frowned. He did not understand. Why would an enemy warrior swear loyalty to him? What strange rule or tradition forced her to bow like this? Before he could question her, enemy forces rushed in again. The battle did not stop for their strange moment. Darius stepped back, sword ready. But now she moved differently. Instead of fighting him, she fought beside him. Her spear struck down her own kind, her sharp movements protecting his back. The human soldiers were stunned. "She's fighting with us," one whispered. "Impossible," another muttered. Yet it was true. The alien warrior who only moments ago was his enemy now defended him with unmatched skill. Each strike was clean, each movement sure, and she never left his side. Together, they pushed through the enemy line. Darius swung his sword. She spun her spear. And for the first time in hours, the humans gained ground. The tide began to shift, not because of numbers, but because of one strange alliance. As the battle slowed, the alien woman stood silently next to Darius. Her eyes lowered, her hair uneven where his blade had cut it. There was no fear in her face, only calm resolve. She seemed ready to accept death if he wished. But she did not move, she only waited. Darius lowered his sword slowly, confusion burning inside him. This was not normal, this was not war as he knew it. Something larger had just begun, something he could not yet name. Around them, whispers spread among the soldiers. Why did she kneel? Why does she fight with us? What does it mean? But no one had an answer. Not yet. Only the alien woman knew the truth. And the meaning of the cut hair would change everything. The battle was over for now, but the real story had only just begun. The oath of loyalty. The smoke of battle still hung heavy in the air. Bodies lay broken across the field. The sound of dying machines still crackled in the distance. Human soldiers moved carefully among the ruins, their weapons raised, their eyes sharp. But the strangest sight was not the fire, nor the wreckage. It was the alien woman who now stood quietly at Captain Darius's side. Her long spear dripped with the blood of her own people. Yet her face was calm, her posture steady. She looked at no one else, only at him. Her eyes followed his every move, as if her soul had already chosen its place. Darius had seen many strange things in war, but nothing compared to this. Only moments ago, she had been his enemy. Now, she fought like his shadow, loyal, precise, and unshakable. The silence broke when Sergeant Hale shouted, "Sir, she's dangerous. She's playing with us." Several soldiers aimed their rifles at her chest. One step, one wrong move, and she would be filled with bullets. But she did not flinch. Instead, she lowered her head, her voice calm. "My life belongs to him," she said, pointing at Darius. "My hair has been taken, my honor is bound, my oath eternal." The soldiers exchanged nervous glances. "What is she saying?" one whispered. "Some alien trick," another spat. But her tone was not the tone of a liar. It was too steady, too sharp, the kind of voice only truth could carry. Darius studied her closely. "Why?" he asked, his voice firm. "Why turn against your own? Why follow me?" The alien woman raised her head slowly. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dying firelight. "In my people's law," she said, "hair is life, hair is soul, hair is loyalty. When a warrior loses hair in battle and still lives, their spirit belongs to the one who cut it." Her hand touched the uneven strands at the side of her head. "You cut my hair, Captain. Now I am yours until death." Her words sent a chill through the squad. A bond of war, sealed by a simple act. Not magic, not command, only tradition. Yet the weight of it pressed down on everyone like iron. "Sadgyantale grojlet. This is insane. Captain, she killed dozens of us. And now she claims to be loyal? We should put her down before she turns again." But Darius did not answer. He looked at the alien woman, at the quiet strength in her eyes. She was not begging, not pleading. She was offering a promise stronger than chains. The others could not understand. They saw only danger. But Darius saw something else, something he could not yet name, and that troubled him more than the battlefield itself. Before he could decide, the alien woman stepped forward. Without hesitation, she dropped her spear at his feet. Her weapon clattered on the ground, the final sound of surrender. She knelt again, lowering her head. Her voice carried through the silence. "I swear by my life, by my ancestors, by the blood I spill from this day onward, my loyalty belongs to you, Captain Darius." The oath was sharp as a blade. It cut through the doubt, through the smoke, through the fear. And though no one wanted to believe it, everyone felt the weight of those words. A loyalty sworn in front of gods, or whatever god she carried in her blood. A loyalty unbreakable, even if it meant turning on her entire people. The squad shifted uneasily. Some lowered their guns, others did not. But the question burned in all their minds. Could they trust her? Or would this oath become their downfall? Darius said nothing. He only stared down at her. In his heart, he knew war was never simple. And this strange vow had just made it more complicated than ever before. As the fires burned lower, as the screams of the wounded faded into silence, a new tension began to rise. Not the fear of death, but the fear of what loyalty truly meant. The oath was given, but its price had yet to be revealed. Tension in the ranks. The battlefield had ended in smoke, but the war inside the camp was only beginning. The soldiers marched back to base, tired, bloodied, but alive. And walking among them was the strangest sight of all. The alien woman, silent, calm, and unchained. Every pair of human eyes followed her. Some were filled with fear, others with hatred. She should have been their prisoner, but instead she walked beside Captain Darius, as if she belonged. Her head was bowed, her hands empty, but her presence was louder than any weapon. Inside the command tent, the voices rose like fire. Sergeant Hale slammed his fist on the table. "This is madness, Captain. She killed our brothers, and now she eats at our fire? We cannot let her stay. She saved us," another soldier argued, his voice shaky but honest. "If not for her warning about the ambush, we'd all be dead right now." "That was luck," Hale snapped, his eyes sharp with anger. "She'll turn on us the moment it benefits her kind. You'll see." The soldiers looked to Darius, waiting for his word. He stood at the center of the tent, silent, his eyes fixed on the alien woman kneeling quietly by the wall. Her head was bowed, but her sharp eyes never left him. There was no fear in them, only patience. She was waiting for his choice. Finally, Darius spoke. "Her loyalty will be tested," he said, his voice steady. "And until she proves herself beyond doubt, she stays under my watch." The room erupted in protest. "You can't trust her. She's a spy. Captain, this is suicide." But Darius raised a hand, and silence fell. "This is not about trust," he said, his eyes cold. "This is about survival." The alien woman lifted her head, her voice soft but clear. "My oath is not a trick. I cannot betray what I have sworn." Her words cut through the air, calm but sharp. Yet the soldiers turned away, their anger stronger than their belief. That night, the camp burned with whispers. Some said she would kill Darius in his sleep. Others said she was cursed, that cutting her hair had awakened something dangerous. Men kept their rifles close, their hands restless. Fear was heavy, thicker than smoke. But while they doubted, she worked. When rations were shared, she waited until the last soldier ate. When wounded cried out, she carried water and bandages without being asked. When the camp needed guarding, she stood watch without rest. Her silence spoke louder than words. And still, no one trusted her. One night, as the cold winds cut through the camp, the danger came. An enemy scout unit slipped past the perimeter, moving like shadows in the dark. They carried blades coated with poison, ready to kill the guards in silence. But the alien woman moved first. Her sharp ears caught their breath, her eyes cut through the shadows. Without a sound, she drew a fallen soldier's knife and struck. Her movements were precise, deadly. By the time the guards even noticed, 3 enemy scouts already lay dead at her feet. When the humans rushed to the scene, they froze. There she stood, chest rising with heavy breath, her blade dripping with blood. Not human blood, but the blood of her own kind. The silence was sharp, broken only by the crackle of fire. She dropped the knife at Darius's feet, the same way she had dropped her spear before. Her voice was calm. "My oath is proven," she said. "Doubt me if you must, but I will kill my own before I break it." The soldiers stared, their fear deeper than before. Was this true loyalty, or something darker? To see an enemy kill her own people was not proof to them. It was a nightmare. Darius studied her, his eyes unreadable. She had saved them again. There was no denying it. But trust was not built in a single night. It was carved slowly with blood and choices. And tonight, another piece of that carving had begun. Around the fire, the men still whispered, still doubted. But none could deny one truth. The alien woman was not like the others. And whatever bond tied her to Captain Darius, it was growing stronger with every heartbeat. And in the shadows, unseen by most, she watched only him. Her oath was not a chain, not a trick. It was something deeper, something older than war. And whether the soldiers liked it or not, she would never leave his side. The tension in the ranks had not ended. It had only sharpened, and soon it would break. Secrets of the alien culture. The campfires burned low, their light casting long shadows across the cold ground. The soldiers slept uneasily, their rifles close, their dreams filled with doubt. But Captain Darius remained awake, his eyes watching the alien woman sitting silently across from him. She had not moved for hours, her back straight, her gaze fixed on the flames. Her hair, cut uneven where his blade had struck, shone dark against the firelight. And with every flicker of flame, Darius felt the same question rise again and again. Why had one strike of his sword changed everything? At last, he broke the silence. "Tell me," he said, his voice steady, "what does it mean, this oath you speak of? Why my blade? Why your hair?" For the first time, she turned her head, her sharp eyes catching his. Her voice was soft, but there was weight in every word. "In my people's world, hair is not just hair," she said. "It is spirit, memory, and honor." Darius frowned. "I don't understand." She lifted a strand of her cut hair, holding it between her fingers as if it were glass. "Our ancestors believe every strand carries the history of battles, the breath of family, the blood of sacrifice. When hair is cut in battle, it means fate has chosen, and the spirit is no longer ours to keep." Her hand lowered slowly, letting the broken strand fall to the dirt. "You took my spirit, Captain, so now my life is yours." Her words sank into him like stone dropped into deep water. Not a trick, not a game, an entire culture bound by this strange law. Darius had fought wars across many stars, but never had he heard of such a vow. "And if I release you?" he asked. Her eyes narrowed, her voice firm. "There is no release," she said, "until death. I belong to the one who cut my hair, and even in death, my soul will follow." The fire cracked between them. Her words were not loud, but the truth in them struck harder than any explosion. Behind him, Sergeant Hale, who had been listening in silence, spat into the dirt. "This is madness, Captain, nothing but alien superstition." But his voice lacked the strength it once carried. Even he could not deny the sharpness in her eyes, the fire in her tone. The alien woman did not look at Hale. She looked only at Darius. "You saved me by not striking again," she said. "You gave me life when you could have given me death, and that choice binds me to you more than chains ever could." For a long moment, Darius said nothing. He thought of his men, their distrust, their fear. He thought of the way she fought beside him, fierce and loyal. And he thought of the strange weight in her voice when she spoke of fate. Finally, he asked, "What is your name?" Her eyes softened, as if the question itself was a gift. "My name is Celera," she said, and for the first time since the battle, she allowed herself a small breath, almost like relief. The name spread through the camp like a spark. Celera, the enemy, the warrior, the one who swore an oath. Now she had a name, and somehow that made her more dangerous and more human all at once. The next days were heavy with tension. Some soldiers still glared at her, whispering behind their hands. Others began to wonder if fate had indeed chosen something greater. For when Celera spoke of her people's traditions, her words carried a strange gravity. She told of warriors who swore themselves to enemies and changed the course of history, of battles where hair meant more than blood, and of oaths that lasted even beyond death. Not everyone believed, but no one could ignore. Celera was no longer just an enemy, no longer just a prisoner. She was a mystery, and mysteries had power. One night, as the wind howled through the camp, Darius found himself staring at her once more. He wanted to call her a liar, a spy, a trickster, but in her eyes, he saw no deception, only a fire that matched his own, the fire of someone who had chosen her path and would never turn away. And though he did not say it aloud, a thought stirred in him like a whisper. Perhaps this vow, strange as it was, could change more than just her fate. Perhaps it could change his. Perhaps it could change everything. The secrets of her culture had been revealed, but the true cost of that bond was still hidden in the dark, waiting for the right moment to strike. A dangerous mission. The War Council gathered under the steel roof of the command tent. Maps were spread across the table, marked with blood-red lines. Every officer spoke at once, their voices sharp. The enemy fortress loomed in the east, heavily guarded, impossible to break by open attack. Captain Darius listened, silent as always. His eyes studied the map, searching for the one path that meant survival. Finally, the general slammed his fist on the table. We need eyes inside their walls, he growled. A scout team, fast and quiet, before they launched their next strike. The room fell still, no one eager to volunteer. To enter the fortress meant almost certain death. But then Darius spoke, his voice steady. I'll lead the team. The general's eyes narrowed, but he nodded, and that was how it began. The mission that would test loyalty, trust, and fate. When the soldiers gathered for departure, whispers rippled like fire. Celera stood at Darius's side, her spear newly sharpened, her eyes burning with quiet fire. Not her. Hale snapped, stepping forward. She cannot go. She'll betray us the moment we cross enemy ground. But Darius's answer was sharp. She goes, he said, and that was the end of it. The team set out at night, moving through shattered ruins and blackened trees. Every step carried weight, every breath carried danger. The silence of the enemy lands was worse than gunfire. It was the silence of a predator waiting. Celera moved like shadow, her senses sharp. Twice she lifted her hand, stopping the group before hidden mines. Once, she dragged a soldier back just as a sniper's beam cut the air. Her actions saved lives, but still the men glared at her. Their trust was fragile, their fear unbroken. Hours passed. The fortress rose in the distance, a mountain of black stone and glowing lights. Patrols circled its walls. Drones swarmed like insects above. The humans crouched low, their hearts pounding. And then Celera spoke, her voice a whisper. There is a hidden path, she said. My people use it to bring supplies. Only few know it exists. The soldiers froze, eyes narrowing. Of course she knows a secret path. Hale spat. It's a trap. But Darius studied her face, calm and unshaken. If she lied, they were dead. If she told the truth, it was their only chance. And so he gave the order, show us. Celera led them through thorn and stone, down a narrow ravine where shadows swallowed light. At the end, a tunnel cut into the rock, hidden by broken debris. Her hand touched the stone gently, almost like a memory. This way, she whispered. The tunnel was dark, wet, and silent. Every step echoed. Every sound carried too far. But Celera moved with sure steps, guiding them deeper. Finally, they reached a grate, beyond which lay the fortress itself. Through the metal bars, Darius saw enemy soldiers, tall and armored, their weapons gleaming. They passed in steady patterns, their boots heavy on the stone. Darius turned to Celera, his eyes sharp. Why do you help us? He asked. Her answer came without hesitation. Because your victory is now my victory, she said. If you fall, my oath is broken, and I will not break it. Before he could reply, the sound of boots grew louder. Enemy patrols closing in. The humans held their breath, fingers on triggers. But Celera moved first, pressing close to the grate, her lips forming words in her own language. Strange, sharp, and rhythmic. The guards paused, confused, listening. And in that heartbeat of distraction, Darius gave the signal. The grate was torn free. The humans struck fast, silent, deadly. Knives into throats, muzzles against helmets. The guards fell before they could cry out. The path was open, but the danger had only just begun. Inside the fortress walls, the team moved like ghosts. Shadows among shadows, guided by Celera's steady hand. Every turn she chose was the right one, every step avoiding traps unseen. It was as if the fortress itself bent to her knowledge. And yet, every soldier's eyes still burned with doubt. Was she truly saving them, or leading them deeper into the lion's jaws? At last, they reached the command hall. Screens glowed, maps lit with red symbols of war. Darius took the data quickly, copying enemy plans. But just as they turned to leave, alarms screamed through the halls. The fortress awoke like a beast, its roar shaking the walls. Soldiers poured in from every direction, armored, armed, merciless. The team was trapped, and in that chaos, all eyes turned to Celera. Had she betrayed them at last? But her spear flashed before the question could take root. She moved like lightning, striking the first guard, then the second. Her voice rang sharp. Go. I'll hold them. The humans hesitated only a breath before running. Darius's heart pounded, his mind torn. Was this sacrifice loyalty, or the final trick of betrayal? As the walls shook with battle cries, as Solara's figure vanished into the storm of steel, one truth cut through Darius's doubt. Whether loyalty or betrayal, her fate was now tied to his, and there was no turning back. The betrayal. The team escaped the fortress through fire and shadow. Bullets cracked behind them, alarms still screaming across the walls. Every heartbeat was a step closer to freedom, or to death. They moved fast, silent, desperate, carrying stolen data that could turn the tide of war. But Solara was gone. Swallowed by the storm, she had chosen to fight alone. Darius wanted to turn back, but the mission came first. Every soldier reminded him of it. Every desperate breath pulled him forward. Still, his heart burned with unease. Had she truly sacrificed herself, or had she stayed behind to meet her own kind? By the time they returned to base, dawn was breaking. The sun painted the sky in blood-red light. The soldiers dropped to the ground, exhausted, but the whispers began at once. She stayed behind because she never planned to return. She lured us in. This whole mission was a trap. She was one of them all along. Sergeant Hale's voice carried the loudest. I told you, Captain, she was never ours, he snarled. She gave us just enough to earn trust, then betrayed us the moment it mattered. Darius said nothing, his eyes fixed on the horizon. But inside, a storm raged. Her words still echoed in him. My oath is eternal. And yet the doubt cut deeper than any blade. The day dragged on, soldiers tense and restless, until, as the sun fell, a shadow moved at the edge of camp. Every rifle rose at once, fingers tight on triggers. Out of the dust, bloodied and bruised, Solara appeared. Her armor shattered, her spear broken in half, but her eyes still sharp, still fixed on him. The camp exploded with shouts. She's back. Seize her. She betrayed us and crawled home to finish the job. Solara did not fight their grasp. She let them chain her hands, drag her before the firelight. Her voice was calm, her head held high. I did not betray you, she said. I fought until the walls fell. I killed until my arms failed. I came back because my oath is not yet done. But Hale stepped forward, fury burning in his eyes. Lies, he spat. You disappeared at the exact moment we were trapped. And now you return after the alarms spread across the valley? The enemy knew we were coming. They knew everything. A cold silence cut through the air. The soldiers looked at one another, doubt written in every face. Darius's jaw tightened. If Hale was right, the mission was compromised before it began, and if Solara was the leak, then her oath was nothing but poison. Solara lifted her head, her voice steady. Believe me or do not, but I will not defend myself with words, she said. I defended myself with blood, and I will again if given the chance. But the doubt was stronger than her words. The men demanded her execution, their voices rising like fire. Hale pushed harder, his words sharp. She is the reason half our squad never returned. She let us into their jaws. And you, Captain, have been blind to it. Darius's silence was heavy, his eyes locked on hers. He wanted to see truth in her face, but all he found was steel. Steel and fire, unshaken by fear. And that made it harder, not easier. That night, while the camp argued and cursed, Darius walked alone to the edge of the field. The stars burned above, endless and cold. War was already filled with betrayal, already painted with blood. But this was different. This was personal. When he returned, the soldiers had already decided. At dawn, Solara would be executed. No trial, no second chance. Only death. Darius gave no order to stop them. But his heart was heavy with war. He could not speak. If she had betrayed them, then killing her was justice. But if she had not, then the humans were about to destroy the only bond that fate itself had given. And Solara, chained by the firelight, did not plead, did not cry. Her eyes never left him, even when hail spat at her feet, even when soldiers cursed her name. She only sat in silence, her breath calm, her oath unbroken. And in that silence, a question burned hotter than any flame. Was this truly betrayal? Or was betrayal hiding somewhere else, in shadows they could not yet see? The night stretched long, heavy with doubt, and as the first light of morning touched the camp, the answer was still hidden. But one truth was certain. Whatever came next, loyalty and betrayal would no longer be clear, and the cost of choosing wrong would be death for them all. Eternal bond. Dawn came cold and gray. The soldiers gathered around the fire pit, their faces set with hard resolve. Chains clinked as Celera was pulled to her knees. Her head bowed, her broken armor hanging from her body, yet her eyes still burned steady, fixed on Captain Darius. Sergeant Hale's voice rose above the silence, sharp as a blade. "This is justice," he said, his rifle aimed steady. "She betrayed us. She brought death to our squad, and now she will pay." The soldiers muttered their agreement, tired, angry, afraid. None wanted her alive. None except one. Darius stood apart, his arms folded, his face unreadable. Inside him, war burned louder than any battle he had fought. Solara's silence haunted him, her eyes still steady, her words still echoing in his mind. "My oath is eternal, my loyalty unbroken." Before Hale could pull the trigger, Celera finally spoke. Her voice calm, almost gentle. "I do not ask for mercy," she said. "I ask only for truth." Her gaze swept the circle of soldiers. "You think I betrayed you, but your true betrayer stands not in chains, but among you." The camp fell silent, rifles shifting uneasily. Her words were poison and fire. But Darius's eyes narrowed, because deep in his gut, he felt the sting of her truth. And then it happened. The ground shook, a thunder of engines filled the air. Enemy forces swarmed from the valley, tanks rolling, soldiers advancing. The camp was surrounded. They had been found, hunted, trapped. Chaos erupted, men scrambling for weapons, alarms screaming through the camp. And in that storm of panic, the truth was revealed. One soldier ran not to fight, but to signal. A flare shot high into the sky, red as blood, and all eyes turned to him. One of their own, Hale's closest man, the true traitor. Bullets cut him down before he could fire again. But the damage was done, the enemy already upon them. Hale's face twisted with rage, but there was no time to speak. The camp shook with explosions, the sky burned with fire. The battle had come, and in that moment, Celera moved. Her chains shattered under the force of her will. She seized her broken spear, turned her eyes to Darius, and spoke. "My oath is eternal, and now I prove it." Before anyone could stop her, she charged into the fire. Her body cut through the enemy like a blade of light. Every strike of her spear was fury and loyalty. Every cry from her throat was a vow made flesh. She fought not as their prisoner, not as their enemy, but as their shield. Darius shouted for his men, his voice cutting through the roar. "Stand with her," and they did. For the first time, not in doubt, not in fear, but in unity. The battle was brutal, fire and steel tearing through the camp. Celera fought like a storm, unstoppable, unbreakable. But even storms burn out. A blade found her side, a bullet cut through her chest. She stumbled, blood spilling, her spear breaking in her hands. Darius was there in an instant, catching her before she fell. Her breath came sharp, heavy, fading, yet her eyes still burned, fixed on his. "I told you," she whispered, her voice weak but steady. "My loyalty is true, my oath eternal." Darius's chest ached, his hands tight around her. He wanted to speak, to stop her words, but the fire in her eyes silenced him. With her last breath, she pressed her broken spear into his hand. "Carry it," she said. "Carry me." And then her eyes closed, her body falling silent in his arms. The battlefield still roared, but for Darius, the world had gone quiet. He rose slowly, Solara's spear in his grip. His voice thundered across the camp. For her, for loyalty, the soldiers roared back, their fear burned away. They fought harder, sharper, fiercer than before, not just for victory, but for the bond that had been forged in fire and blood. When the enemy finally fell back, when the valley grew silent again, the humans stood alive, but forever changed. Solara's body lay in honor, her broken spear now carried by Darius. And though her voice was gone, her oath lived on, not in chains, not in doubt, but in every heart she had touched. Some said she had been fate's gift, others said she had been fate's curse. But Darius knew only one truth. Her loyalty had been real, and though her body was gone, her spirit walked beside him still. Her oath eternal, her bond unbroken. The war was far from over. But from that day onward, Captain Darius fought not alone. For in every strike of his blade, in every roar of his command, the shadow of Solara moved with him. An eternal bond, forged in battle, sealed in blood, and destined to echo across the stars.